Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by A Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with A Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space.
All right. We're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast. And today we're excited because we're continuing on with our Behind the Lender series, our favorite series. And for our listeners, it's become your favorite as well. So we're really looking forward to this one, especially because we're working today with our preferred partner with First National, Elena Robinson, the VP of Residential Sales. We have a great relationship with not only First National, but Elena, and we're very excited to have you on the show for the first time and get into your background, what works, what doesn't work from a lender perspective in today's market, and all the behind the scenes that's going on with First National. So Elena, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited.
Thank you, Dean and Deryk, for having me on the show today. I'm very excited to dive right in and get us 100% honest, raw truth.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, we couldn't ask for anything more than that. So really appreciate it. So, just beyond, what we're going to get into today with First National, I'm just really curious to better understand your background, your career journey. Who is Elena Robinson? Maybe, walk us through your path and, your evolution into the channel and now leadership.
I've only ever in my entire career done mortgages. I started in this industry over 40 years ago, very long time ago. And I'm telling you, this industry was vastly different from what it is today. For example, I worked for a small, very trust company, Victorian Gray Trust. It used to be called Vicious and Greedy back in the day. We would only use half of a woman's income to qualify.
Oh, wow. Really?
I know. You think about it today and, so many women, are single mortgage owners or single family homeowners, but that's just a little small piece of it. Also, brokers. The only reason you ever went to a mortgage broker back in that day is if you couldn't get a deal done anywhere. Like it was the bottom of the barrel. You got those deals and you didn't even get paid a commission, by the way. One of the companies I first started with started paying commissions to mortgage brokers. So on average, a mortgage broker would probably make $300 to $350 a deal. And that's it. That's how I started in this industry.
Wow.
And then I started working at First National when it was just a startup company. So I think I was like the 8th or 10th employee. So imagine what First National was at the startup and what it is today. Now, I did leave First National. I got married, and then I was a mortgage broker for over 20 years. So I can really, bring that understanding or how I can relate to how mortgage brokers go through on a daily basis because I walked in their shoes. For me, at the time, it was wonderful. And I loved being a broker, but circumstances changed. I got divorced and my ex-husband used to own a brokerage firm. So I decided to go back to lending, which is where I originally started. Funny thing is, when you think about it, in this business, you don't go to school to be a mortgage broker. You just fall into it. And it's such a great business to be in. Brokers can make the same amount of money as a lawyer and a doctor.
Yeah.
But it's funny how we don't really go to school to be a mortgage broker.
Not enough school, anyways.
Yeah. Yes, in certain regions, for sure. Yeah. So that's my evolution. And then I came back to First National in 2018 to help launch the Excalibur program and then transition to my current role.
Did I read this right that you were the first BDM for First National?
Yes, I started and then they hired Christine Nugent. Some people might know the Nugent family from the DLC group.
Yeah.
His mother, she came on board in Toronto and with Scott McKenzie. He's the one who hired me at the time. So I was one of the very first BDMs in this industry. I know. that's revolutionized a lot too.
I could imagine the progression of that role has changed a ton too, right?
Vastly, vastly different. Yes, exactly.
It makes a lot of sense, like why you're in a leadership role. You've truly seen it all on both sides, from, mortgage brokering, going back to, I can't even believe you said that, women only getting recognized for half of their income. I've never heard that before. So that's shocking and shows you how far we've come as not just an industry, just our culture, our country. Like that's just wild to me. So you've truly seen it all. And like that makes sense why you're in a leadership role. But going from that typical sales role, even as a mortgage broker, to then, mortgage broker maybe hiring staff or you rolling into a role where people are reporting to you, like that leadership role is very different. And there's challenges in that in its own. And I'm just curious, like what led you to want to take on that responsibility, and do you enjoy it? And what are the things that, help you get through, the challenging parts of those days?
I love managing people. I love to see people progress in this industry. It's funny, like even when I came back and helped launch Excalibur, there were certain people that I had worked with, like I worked at Home Trust, but just that I knew there was potential for them and, kind of tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, have you ever considered being in sales? That's what I get my joy from, is just seeing somebody young, eager in this business. And there's so many new people coming into this industry, but just giving them that opportunity to, hey, how about you go into this role? What do you think? Not everybody, by the way, is a good manager. Seeing people that have gone into the management roles, they've been great BDMs. They're fantastic BDMs. But managing people is a very different, it's not about you anymore. As like a BDM, you got to hustle for your own. Now it's about everyone else. It's everyone on your team that you're trying to support and bring up and get them to being successful. And I think that's the difference between the two roles.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. And I'm curious over just the progression of your career, comparing the earlier days to nowadays. Are you seeing a lot of people leave the institutional level, the First Nat, the lenders, and try to make their way into the actual brokering community like you did? Have you seen that change over the years?
Oh, a lot. We see that even from the mortgage specialists coming from the banking side. But there's also been several people that have worked at First National that have gone into the broker world. Even there was one BDM that I had. He was wonderful, but I knew eventually he would join his father. Because his father, and you'd be shocked at how many broker kids that we have working at First National, which we don't mind. Like we encourage that, but eventually the plan is, in majority of cases, not all of them, it's a great training ground for them. To learn the underwriting, to learn the lender's perspective, and then to move into the broker world. So we've seen that happen within our own company.
There really is no better training ground than just that. And like what you see on the back end operationally from especially a monoline lender and how, entrenched you are with the broker channel. Like there's so much you can learn with that experience. And it kind of leads me to my next question is like, what was the moment, or was there a moment where the broker channel model really clicked for you?
I've only ever dealt with mortgage brokers from day one. Like even at Victorian Great Trust, when I was there, even though I wasn't in the sales role, I learned everything, renewals, payments, all that, collections. But we dealt with mortgage brokers there as well. So some of them are still brokers today that were at that time. I know. They're all looking for succession planning, don't get me wrong, but there are some individuals that were brokers at the time. So I've only ever dealt with brokers. I have some great relationships. Like some of my best friends have come. Like one actually works for a Better Way is one of my best friends that we met through working in this industry together. So I've never been in that banking side, like the teller or, doing credit card. Never. I've only ever worked with mortgage brokers my entire life. So I must like them if I'm still here.
You know nothing else.
I know nothing else. Yeah.
If you flip that question around, you were with First National, you went off to broker for a long time and you went back to First National. You obviously, spending 20 years brokering, got to know a lot of different lenders. Like, what drew you back to First National? Why was that your decision?
I think because I started with them at such a small startup stage, the players like the Maury Taz and the
Right.
Stephen Smith, who started that company originally, and Scott, like, funny enough, we actually all worked together too prior to First National.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like even Doug Farmer came from Central Guarantee Trust. So did I. So did Connie. So did Scott. So did Maury. So we sort of all knew each other too. It's relationships. Like we talk about relationships all the time, like us building relationships. So my relationship was built prior to even First National becoming, and, it was an idea. And I was lucky enough that they wanted to bring me over and join them from the onset.
Yeah, and relationships are everything. Like, you want to enjoy who you're working with and have those moments where you have that not just enjoyment of your day to day, but actually trust and, the ability that you can all deliver and that team cohesiveness. It's huge. And this kind of parlays into my next question in First National, which I don't think this is talked about enough these days. And it was such a big talking point when I came into the industry. This is way before, stress tests and all those things. But like First National and, the other monolines in our channel work exclusively with mortgage brokers. Like there's no retail branches, competing with us. We all know why that matters, but I'd love to just toss that around a bit. Like, why does that matter? And, how does it shape the culture of what you do at First National?
It's funny. Yeah, we've never been a direct consumer model. It's been talked about, don't get me wrong, because over the years, there are some others that have gone to that route. We've never wanted to do it because our success, how we've grown to where we are today, has been entirely based on the mortgage broker industry. So why change that? In the sense, we've done other things. As you know, we do third-party servicing. But for us to actually go directly to the clients in that approach has never been something that we've been interested in. As long as I'm here anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. And I think that this is like, given the times that we're in right now with the rate competition and what's going on internally within our channel with, a couple different lenders and then the external competition, which we can't control. I think more now than ever, people need to start to recognize and remember the fact that lenders like First National are only in it for the broker channel, right? Like you're not competing with a different level of staff or employee with different, pricing. And I think that there's a lot of value for clients nowadays, given just, the world that we're in. The simplicity of dealing with a lender that only does mortgages, and they're not trying to get you to set up an account and move your mortgage payment and set up a line of credit and credit card just to get a bit of a better rate. Like, I think that we need to frame that in our conversations, because some people, we think everyone wants the best rate, but some people just want simplicity. And like, I fall into that bucket 100%,
You're right. You're absolutely 100% right. Because did you see that post? There was a broker who put a post out recently saying that she had gone with one of the 5 major banks. The client, unfortunately, had a really tragic happening and they had to get out of the mortgage quickly. And the penalty was like $54,000. Like, I actually shared it with my team and say, hey, this is a great talking point, because I think, unfortunately, the fear is that the mortgage is just all about rate. And I think brokers have to pivot that conversation, because they're more than just the rate. I think a mortgage broker is more than just the rate. They're providing valuable information, guidance for someone who's purchasing probably one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives. And there's a lot information that you have to pull from that client. Like, what's your long-term plan? Are you just married? Are they going to have kids? Your career progression. There's so much involved in when you're having that conversation with your client other than the rate.
Couldn't agree more. And like this whole AI wave right now is got a lot of people scared, a lot of people looking at things like, are we going to be replaced? And you think about relationships and trust building, like that is really our role. And if anything, AI is only going to enhance that, because you're going to have more time to do that. And like, I think of the relationships that we have at First National as an example, like we know who to call if something's going sideways, and something could be going sideways for 50 different reasons. Like there's so many variables in a mortgage transaction, and it's not repeatable. It's not a repeatable process every time. And that's really what AI relies on, is like a repeatable, same cookie cutter process that it can automate. And that's just not the case with mortgages. There's emotion with the client. There's changes in the client situation, where like divorce, a partner buyout in a business, somebody losing their job. There's so many different things that can go on that if you're not stick handling that, like a broker's role is to not just have those relationships and the trust, but to be able to stick handle the relationships and the trust on the back end with the lenders. So I just feel like now is such a good time to really double down on that human to human connection. And that goes for, what are your human to human connections at the lender? Like, do you know who they are? Do you have a relationship with them? And do you speak to them like properly? Because, a lot of what we've seen in the last couple of months is just a lot of emotion from a broker to a lender perspective, and not the nicest conversations happening. So it's like, treat people with respect and you'll get respect back, and you'll get that file, moved to the top of the pile, so to speak, if you're one of those trusted, broker resources.
You hit the nail on the head there, what a true partnership is. Because, are you dealing with a lender that you can pick up that phone if there's an issue, and that there's a solution, not a decline? And that's really where the relationship and partnership comes into effect. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. And I do a lot of analogies when it comes to relationships, typically about dating or marriage. It's the second time this has happened. There was another lender they had to deal with. They called us. It was like they got the deal pulled 2 days. They needed to close in 2 days. We did it. So that was the first scenario. And then the second scenario, something similar with another lender, called us last minute. Hey, we need this. You got to help us out. Now, we have a great relationship, but because of the rate wars, they've been going elsewhere. So after the second one, I said, a relationship is when you trust each other, but it's the second booty call. I call it booty calls, right?
That's true.
Right? You call me last minute, whatever. After the second one, this is not a true partnership anymore. We have to get back to that relationship piece where, I'm not your booty call.
No, I couldn't agree more.
I'm stealing that one.
Well, I also say for new brokers, I don't know if you've ever heard this, like, when you're starting with a brand new lender, you're a brand new broker, it's like dating. On the first date, you're not going to bring out the shit, right?
Yeah.
Everything is roses, you're wonderful, you're fantastic, but you're going to give your best deals initially, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, as the relationship builds, then you can, start giving the ones that need a little bit more work. It's the same thing. So I use those analogies a lot.
I love it. I think there's not enough emphasis on this. And I know some people are phenomenal at it, but like I look at brokering in general, and there's so much emphasis on like the realtors and the referral partner and getting the deal in. And there's not enough on the lender relations. And at the end of the day, like you can bring in 100 deals, but if you don't have those relationships to push things through and massage and have a real conversation, like it's all worthless, right? Like we always put so much effort into that when we were brokering. And I can guarantee you probably 80-90% of the broker industry has not met their underwriters, right? Because like a lot of people stay at home and, like you look at different models, BRMs and all these things, it's like you should be proactive and take them out for lunch. Like don't wait for them to call you, right? It's $50, but that person, next time you reach out, and the fact that they've gotten to know you and you took the time to go drive to their house or the restaurant near their house, it goes so far. Just as a takeaway for anyone listening to this, if you're not doing that, like think about that. We're midway through the year. Even an email to your top lenders to say thank you so much for everything you've done for me this year, it goes a long way.
100% agree with you. We encourage, actually, we like to have brokers come into our office to meet the teams. We like to bring the underwriters out. You have to. That's where majority of the conversations actually happen. Between your underwriter or your BDM, those two individuals, and it's supposed to be a team. And that's what we like. You can always call somebody if there's a problem, and somebody is going to be there to help you to find a solution.
One thing I wanted to touch on is like for scale and context, you look at the model, it's exclusive with mortgage brokers, which we've talked about. But for the scale and context of that, like you're the largest non-bank lender top 3 in the broker channel. That follows the same blueprint that we have within our brokerage. You're in our top 3 of lender partners. And just to paint that picture, that's pretty substantial given that, the other 2 top partners in our top 3 are banks that
Yeah.
that we have all sorts of, competition with, and even within the broker channel now with the pricing that, we're not going to go too deep into that, but Deryk touched on the pricing conflicts and whatnot. It's pretty remarkable, and it just goes to show like how much effort you put into the relationships from the top down. And, we've talked about this a lot, like our best partners are the ones that we have the top-down support from. We know who to call, and it's not just a booty call. Like, we actually spend time to build those relationships because you spend time to build relationships with us. Like, a lot of it is you driving those connections. So I just want to touch on that because it's a substantial stat.
It's funny. I equate my sales team the same way as brokers. We're both trying to do the same thing, right? You guys are competing against the banks for your deals with the rates, and we're doing the same thing with the other competitors in this industry. But I think what you guys do very well, and we're very similar, we're trying to bring something more to the broker by providing educational, which you guys do very well too, doing webinars, doing something that brings some value to the brokers in their daily business. And I'm not talking just product dumps. I'm talking about, for example, one of my team members, and it's funny, I said, how did you get the mayor? They're doing a get together and the mayor of London's coming and the police officer. And I said, like, how did you get the mayor of London? Did you know somebody? They said, no, we just called.
That's cool.
We just called them and they said that they were coming. But those are the things that, and he's going to talk about housing affordability in that specific region. But that's what you want to bring. Again, this part of the relationship. How can we help the broker to be more successful in their business? Not just by our products, which I think are fantastic, but also other parts of it that can help them grow, to educate them to be a better subject matter expert for their clients. Those are the things that you want to bring. And I think you guys do that very well too, because I see everything that you are also providing to your mortgage brokers constantly.
I'm actually really happy that the industry is starting to move more in this direction. And I think it's becoming harder and harder to get brokers to leave their houses and their families and their lives. So if they are going to, spend 3 hours outside of working or spending it with their kids, like there has to be some real value there.
Yeah.
Right. It can't just be a product dump and some drinks and stuff. And once in a while, that's fun. But, there's so much going on in our industry nowadays. There's so many events inside of brokerages, outside of brokerages. Like it really does have to be of value, I think, for people to spend that time and take that time. And I was just going to add one more thing on the back end of everything that you guys are doing to, stay top of mind and bring brokers in and educate them. When we talk to our brokers about First National, like the rationale as to why they continue to go back is consistency. It's consistency in underwriting. It's consistency in communication, consistency in conditions and process and the people, right? And I think that's one of the challenges that, there can be a lot of movement in our industry, people bouncing around from role to role. And I always say this, like, I think you kind of get 1, maybe 2 shots with a broker if they're sending in a deal for the first time. If it's not a pretty slick process, they know there's 15 other lenders that probably have a similar rate and product that would love to try to bend over for them, right? So I just wanted to plug that because that's just common feedback that we've received since we took over 3.5 years ago, is the consistency around First National, which I think it's not easy to achieve, right? With the growth and the scale. And I mean, there is a big change within First National just under a year ago, right? And he's still been able to maintain that.
Yeah, I mean, and we could talk about that sale. They've really just left us alone. What I have to admit that they're bringing to the table for us is the AI, the automation.
Right.
Because for First National, it has always been best in class service, speed. Because for us, speed is a competitive advantage in this industry. So we are working on AI tools in terms of reviewing documentation, for fraud and just pay stubs, that whole administrative piece that can easily be quickly done.
Yeah.
The human aspect, and I think you talked about that a little bit, that will never go away because as far as we're concerned, there's an art and a science to underwriting, right? The art is that human aspect. The science, we can improve that. by bringing in AI tools. We did that with Excalibur. We have a credit app now that takes the bank statements and pulls all that. So that part will be improved. But the other part, the service, the relationship building, the commitment that we have, that's not. And statistically, it does show people will go online on the internet, they will research, but they want to speak to a human when it comes to the actual part. And can they tell you what their closing costs are? Can they tell you what their penalty is? There's a myriad of questions that clients will ask when they're getting their mortgage. So I think brokers are concerned that AI may replace them. I don't think so. And look at Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
It's a great point. Like, there's other models that have come in and tried to create that like automated experience, even though there was human beings on the back end, like, actually pushing it before AI. Like there's ones that tried to create that, like, hey, you don't have to talk to a human and this is automated. I mean, for anyone that uses AI regularly, like it's regularly wrong. Like it hallucinates. It's not always correct. So it's going to take time for like the humans to fully trust that it's giving them the right information. So I think that's a big part of it. But you mentioned something with Excalibur and the AI efficiency that can come from that. And, we talk about Excalibur, that we're talking about alternative lending, which is a gigantic amount of bank statements and the time that it takes to analyze those and figure out what kind of income can we actually use here for an annual basis. Like, what are the expenses? Like, what does this actually look like? The work that AI's done in that space is incredible. Internally, some of our agents have been using a tool called PureLend.
I've heard of it. Yeah. Very similar.
Which is, like you mentioned, credit apps, a tool that I know other lenders are starting to use. And like, this is a little off script, but do you envision a path where whatever tool you're using, whether it's credit app or something, you create down the road, do you envision a world where the broker and the lender have transparency in what that tool is putting together? And I think that's the next layer of one, maximum partnership, but just such great transparency between the lender, the broker, and then ultimately the client.
I totally agree. Especially there's a lot of brokers who don't feel comfortable in the alternative space. And I think that thinking has to shift.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of opportunity in the past that they've just, it's too difficult. We'll just give it to someone else. And I think they have to change that mindset because it's actually great clients.
Yeah.
It's not as difficult, I think, as people think it is. And I think there's more of a stickiness to with those clients, right? Because it's not always about the rate. It is about getting them the best
far less
solution.
Emotional. Yeah.
Far less. Yeah. So I think hopefully brokers are becoming a little bit more comfortable when it comes to that alternative space, because I think that space has grown substantially too in the last, oh my God, just even the last 5 years alone. And you can tell because there's so many lenders, even A lenders, who've moved into the space with their own alternative side. So,
oh, totally. I mean, we've seen a substantial increase in that type of business, like just over 30% year over year has moved to that space.
Yeah.
And, it's solutions for folks that there isn't a solution for anymore. In some cases, it's like a speed, it's a better experience, and trying to, get these deals done at like a bank in the branch. As an example, I was talking to a broker that's, does a lot of deals in branch with, on the commercial side. And he said, I think there's always a solution at the branch for these files. And it's like, well, what does that process look like? Like, how long does it take? Who are you dealing with? You're passing it off to a branch specialist that hopefully is going to figure this out. Like, what is that experience like for you? And then let alone the client. And like, he had to admit, like, not great, right? Like, these are self-employed borrowers in most cases, almost all cases. Like what we're seeing, at least on our end, is like 98% of these people are in a gig type income, or they're self-employed. It's like, what do they want? They want speed and a solution. They don't care about rate. Like, just figure this out and get this done and make it easy. As a business owner, that's all I want. Like, I just get me the solution.
They're actually great clients. It's funny, the mindset on those clients even 5 years ago was, oh, they're a lesser type of individual. They're not. They pay better than the salaried individuals. They truly are a good prospect. So if you're giving away your alternative, don't take it. Ask us to help you.
There's no competition when it comes to the banks, right? Like the banks are not competing with these folks. Like you're not going to be bumping into rate discretionary, issues, right? So,
hey everyone, Dean here. Quick timeout from the episode to share with you the ABW Tuesday Mortgage Memo, your weekly market highlights sent directly to your inbox every Tuesday. This is certainly one you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to sign up now. You can do so with a link in the show notes, or you can head to joinabw.ca and sign up there. This is a high-level summary of market developments, regulatory updates, and housing trends every Tuesday. So hope you enjoy it, and back to the show.
it leads me to the next kind of segment here. We talked about Excalibur here. Like maybe we could just touch on the products. Like I think for most brokers, especially in the West, would consider First National as a prime lender. And we just talked about Excalibur for a bit. Like there is another, bucket there with Excalibur. And, maybe we can just touch on, I guess, the credit curve and how First National supports brokers with the products that you have.
Again, I was brought in to help launch this in 2018 is when we brought back Excalibur because they had it many years ago. We saw an opportunity, especially when the regulations all changed in 2016. We knew that it was going to be a little bit more difficult for those individuals, especially business for sale and just affordability. So that was the whole purpose of why Excalibur came back. It came back because we wanted to provide that one-stop shop. If you can't get it done, and prime side, it's pretty vanilla, right?
Yeah.
It's a box. The thing I love about Alternative or Excalibur is that you can think outside that box. When you're sitting down and you're trying to, okay, how can we put this together? And sometimes it's a puzzle. Okay, let's put less down here and do this. And for me, I love it. It's kind of my baby. So, I call it my little baby because I help bring it into effect. And it keeps growing. Like we just came out with 60-60 ratios last week. So there's a lot of opportunity there for growth. And that's where we see that going with this alternative space. And that's why we constantly are trying to improve our Excalibur offerings. And, we're working on an ARM, we're working on holdcos. There's just so much potential there. And I think brokers, that mindset should be with them too.
Like that's very reassuring for us to hear because we're seeing how much the space is growing and the need for other solutions there. And you mentioned it, like all these other lenders are coming out with alternative channels. And it's funny, we do these speed dating events, which, a lot of our brokers and listeners would be familiar with. And we always did a private lender speed dating event and then an alternative lender. It was very hard to get enough alternative lenders to fill that room because there was only like 5 or 6 of them. Right now it's,
oh my God,
there's so many, right, that are competing in that space. But it's just back to, who do you already know? What are the relationships you already have? It's, First National. Those are our key relationships. And it leads me into like another product. I guess it's a product is your proprietary platform, Merlin, and how that will play a part in this underwriting experience, especially as, we talked about things like, bank statements and the analysts on those statements and working through them. Is that something that you just see Merlin, evolving into being able to be that delivery channel to have those tech tools, I guess, get in front of a broker?
Yeah. Do you know Merlin was Stephen Smith's weekend brainchild?
Really?
Oh, yeah. One weekend, he went home and figured out, and Merlin is the Merlin that he came up with many, many years ago.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's just an amazing mind. But yes, we want to improve Merlin. Merlin is a great platform in terms of getting underwriting done quickly. That's why we have that 4-hour turnaround. It's based because of Merlin. Now, the portal for the brokers in terms of being able to see their deals and upload docs and do all that, we encourage brokers to use it. Are we working on improving it? Absolutely. And again, bring those AI tools so that it's immersive relation,
Very cool.
I guess. Yeah. We're working on that. Again, because of Brookfield and Birchall and their experience with automation and AI, they've been really a great partner for us in help.
I think that's music to a lot of people's ears. And it's like, I guess the expectation from a lender to a broker was like, we got a portal, right? Like lenders would come to a broker and say, we got a portal. It's like, you just got it? Like, It's like, what are you talking about, right? So like you guys have had a portal for my whole career,
Yeah.
and now it's evolving, it's being enhanced, and especially with the AI piece, I think that's so key. So yeah, that's just music to a lot of folks' ears. I think I just want to go a little bit into like the behind the scenes, like the deal flow side of things. So, when a broker submits a deal, maybe just like high level, walk us through that journey. Like who touches the file? Like how does it ultimately get from submitted to, broker complete and funded?
So as soon as it's received in Merlin and it's timestamped everything, you can see who's picked up the deal. And that's when the SLA starts, right? They have to have it within the 4 hours. So the underwriter automatically is the one, especially if you have a designated underwriter. That's why we encourage so much, even for new brokers being added on, we want a designated underwriter. Not just for the relationship piece, but you become familiar with that same individual working on your file. And it's a simple process for them. What I think hinders, it's the notes that brokers put in their files. And, if you could think of it as if someone were to pick up, you got hit by a bus and your coworker had to pick up that file, could they understand everything about that file based on your notes? And I think if you have that sort of mindset going to when you're submitting a deal, then it saves the back and forth that can hinder the time getting a response back. There's some great brokers that do a fabulous job in putting that deal case and putting all their notes in, and they can get an answer within an hour. That, honestly, if you had that, you would get your answers very, very quickly. Way less than the 4 hour turnaround time.
When I started brokering, I remember submitting like the first few deals and the lender calling me right away. And it just made my heart drop. Like you're thinking, what did I do wrong? And just through the progression of growing our team and now within the brokerage, like the goal should always be to give them enough information so they don't have to call you. So your heart doesn't have to drop. Like just get the approval, right? Like you have to give them enough information to get a commitment. Life is way better if you don't have to take that phone call, always.
You'd be shocked how many deals that we get. Oh, refi, please approve. Like it just, even though how many times you hear lenders talk about put your notes in, do all that, you still get the deals with no notes.
That's a common mistake that comes up a lot. And I appreciate you bringing that up. When a deal needs a second look, what is that relationship between the sales team, the underwriter, and ultimately maybe a credit manager or somebody in a senior position? Where does it get escalated and how does that happen and why?
Typically, it's through the BDM. And honestly, people don't get upset because you escalate the file. Sometimes it's just another way of looking at the deal that you may not have thought of that option. So that's why we're very open to, or we have a great relationship between our sales and the underwriting team. It wasn't like that many years ago, but we really need that synergy between the two, because it's not about putting blame on anyone. It's about, hey, have you thought about this option? And then we can get it to the finish line. And a lot of cases, that's all it is. It's just, oh, I never thought of thinking of doing it that way, or asking for this possible documentation in replacement of this. It's like, I know brokers want us, and we're doing this on Merlin, to put all our policies on there, which is great. But I want in big yellow highlighted bold letters at the beginning, please speak to underwriter or IM for an exception, because there's always an exception. So if you see something in the policy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't think of, okay, how about this option instead? So always think.
Yeah. I mean, that's back to like the AI discussion, right? That repeatable, cookie cutter process when it comes to policy and, what's in the file. It just doesn't work that way. And, a conversation about maybe a change in the situation could be a reason for an escalation as well. So I'm glad you framed it that way. And I guess rolling in, so like we're recording this as we're heading into the summer of 2026. And I just wanted to touch on like market trends and current conditions, because overall, like we're seeing similar volume as a brokerage year over year from last year. And we would have thought it would have been higher because we have a slightly bigger team. And so we're noticing some changes in the flow of volume. And I'm just curious, like, what are you seeing from broker behavior right now? Affordability, arrears, like volumes, like, we can kind of go in any angle there. It doesn't have to just be broker volume perspective. But yeah, I'm just curious what you're seeing in the market right now and the current conditions.
I think at the beginning of the year, I think we were feeling pretty good about things. Business was on a trajectory on a growth. Then the war started, all the issues that came up, and then people just sat on the fence, and then the tariffs, and they're worried about their jobs. I think the issue right now is there's a lot of people who want to buy, they want to move, but they're just sitting on that fence. And it's not rates. Rates are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they're, hey, from somebody who used to see 21% rates, these rates are fabulous. Are we ever going to get to the 1% and 2%? Probably not in my lifetime. Your lifetime, you're much younger than I am, maybe. But I think it's just a wait and see period now.
Yeah.
For people, because people are still buying some homes, and that's why you're seeing a flat, like you're saying. You're not seeing so much growth, but a flat. And I think most people are in that way, except for the banks.
Yeah.
The banks are aggressive because there aren't enough sales happening, right?
For sure.
They're not losing their renewals. That's why, a lot of talk about the renewal market. I think there was a lot of hope on brokers maybe getting some of that business, and some of them are. But I would say the majority of the banks are being very aggressive in keeping those clients. And typically they're a 90% renewal retention.
Yeah.
They are. They always have been.
Yeah.
That's because they do great touch points throughout the year. They do 3, 4 credit cards, lines of credit. They do all that. Have we seen growth? No. We've seen a lot of individuals down year over year. There are some who are still doing well. For me, the brokers, and I was at a sales conference with a Harvard professor, expert on sales. Then I saw another one. It's all the same. It's back to basics for brokers, I think, and for us as well. It's just making those calls. It's being consistent, persistent, and allocating that time every day and reaching out to your referral partners, to your clients, and just being committed to doing that. Just like for us, it's the same way. And those brokers that I see who are successful are the ones who continue to do that. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, we've had some really great years where brokers, you have to be reactive instead of proactive. And I think people are realizing, hey, I have to get off my ass and I have to hustle and go out there and make those calls to your referral partners, to your clients. You really have to be committed to doing that every single day. The professor said, on average, you have to make 10 calls to one person to get them interested.
Oh, wow.
Most people give up after 5 calls.
Yeah.
And one broker I talked to the other day, she goes, I will keep calling them unless they've died or they've pretty much told me lose my number.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's such good advice. But like I look from a broker to lender perspective, and there's been a lot more competition returning to the channel. Like we just talked about like the lenders that are launching alternative products and never had those. Like we have credit unions in the West here that have alternative products now. And then, new banks coming back to the channel with BMO that, that we've had them for a bit now in the Ontario region, but that's new in Alberta and BC. That's increased competition. National Bank, coming back. There's all these different, competing options for a broker to look at. And so you talk about making the calls and maintaining like the top of mind relationship, like it's becoming more and more important from a lender perspective to the broker channel as well. So I think that's one piece. But you also mentioned like rates, and like I find clients are very indecisive right now because look at the markets in the GTA and the GVA. Like there is so many options. Like you want a townhouse, like I'm sure a realtor could probably show you like 50 that are available, right? And like you don't have to write an offer right now. You can write an offer like in 30 days. Like you can actually like sit on these options and just not make a decision because there's so many options. And I was talking to a broker about a presentation that they're doing, and they said like, okay, like clients are waiting for a lower rate, right? Because they think the rates are going to come lower, or they're waiting because like there's just so many options and they're just waiting for the best one. And so they're just doing nothing. And like in the case of like looking at your client's plan, like what is your financial plan? Like you're living in a 1-bedroom condo with a young baby. Like when are you going to actually move the family into the proper home? Like what is your financial plan? Or is it like, are you looking to downsize? And like, why is like a rate like over 25, 50 basis points or like the perfect property over, looking at 90 days? Why is that dictating the financial plan? And what is your actual plan? Like getting back to your goals and your family and what are you looking to achieve? Like, I think that just framing those conversations could really help people like, okay, like what am I waiting for here? Like, let's get the plan moving forward as it should, instead of just, sitting and essentially being frozen.
Well, I think too, if you look at what a house value was just 2 years ago, they've gone down, which means, you can buy
Right.
the house now that maybe you couldn't.
Right.
Your down payment has gone down because the value has gone down and rates are relatively good. This business, if you look even in the 40 years that I've been in there's been the peaks and the valleys. Honestly, it's a cyclical business. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and down. We're on the down level. To me, this is the best time to actually start looking to buy before that
Absolutely.
peak starts building up, right? This is the best time. If it drops another 3%, who cares? You're in a house. You're not paying somebody else's mortgage by paying rent, because that's all you're doing. You're already paying a mortgage, but someone else's mortgage. And it's how you frame the conversation. And to me, people tend to wait until the market starts heating up, right?
Yeah.
And we've had the last since 22 where values have gone down. This is already 4 years. This is the time to buy, people, I think.
Yeah, I think that sometimes as salespeople too, we forget that it's our job to educate and coach, and like we think they're just there to process a pre-approval for them and let them make their own decision. Like they don't know what's going on in the market, right? And I think this is where, back to relationship, like building a really strong relationship with your realtor partners and making sure that you're on the same page, not to do the clients wrong, right? But to educate them in an effective way and explain everything that you just talked about. Every client should have that context, but very few of them do.
Yeah, I agree.
As we look to wrap, I'm curious, like we talked about service standards a little bit, like the 4-hour turnaround commitment. How do you measure success on the sales side?
Well, they all have their targets, of course. But it is more than just that number. I think I have a fantastic team. And the reason is I think they build great relationships. Brokers tell me all the time, your people call back. I know BDMs who take 3 days before, which I can't fathom anybody would actually do that. But, I talk to young new brokers coming in the business, and they've told me, you guys are the only ones who actually ever paid attention to me, because we truly believe that they're going to be the next Dean Lawton, or they're going to be, some of them don't, some of them get out of the business, and that's part of doing business. But it's amazing how people don't spend that time. And that's all I ask of my team, is that you spend the time. Don't discount anyone. Just make sure you're spending your time wisely on the people who matter. And that's why we have efficiencies, by the way. I know other people, lenders that don't have efficiencies, and it makes no sense, because then you know who the people who are committed to you, who have that partnership with you.
Yeah.
I could say you guys do the best job at making the lower end of our stack feel like the top end and building those relationships from the very beginning. And I'm like proof of that. Like my very first day in this industry was at an MBABC conference, and Larry Bond talked to me for an hour and bought me a drink. So like made me feel like somebody. And then it's like right away I was like, okay, I got to get a deal to First National. Like that's where my first deal is going. And it's just an example of, you really focus on on the whole pack opposed to, just the top end. And we have so many relationships with lenders, like, who are your top people? Like, who should we be calling? It's like, where that's not the conversation with First National. If anything, it's like, who's that middle of the pack? Who's new? Who can we reach out to and like help like move along? And I think that's got to be part of your recipe of success. And I'm sure it's probably something that you've strategized over the years, because it definitely proves to work within our group.
100%. We're always talking about relationships. We're always talking about partnerships, but there are true partnerships within my team, within everyone at First National. And I think that's our secret sauce. And I've told that when I had the first meeting with Virtual and, they wanted to learn about First National. And I said, hey, we may not have the best pricing and we may not have the best commission payment, but what we do have, and it's the relationships, and that's been our success and best in class service.
Yeah, totally.
If you had a piece of advice to give to a broker today related to working with First National and then just in general, I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts.
For me, this broker industry is truly a rewarding industry. I think you can make a fantastic living being a mortgage broker. Make sure you have the right partners to help you along to get to that success. And truly, that's what we want to see for our brokers, is them to be a success. And if we can help them along that way to get there, that is our goal.
That's well said. That's a great point to end on. And I just want to thank you, Elena. This was excellent. Again, your whole team, our relationships with you mean the world to us. So thank you for doing this. I know our listeners are really going to appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Always a joy, guys.
Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it.
Now, a message about something that means a great deal to us and to everyone at A Better Way Mortgage Group. City Reach Care Society is our chosen charity partner for 2026. For over 20 years, City Reach has been serving thousands of vulnerable individuals, children, and families across Greater Vancouver. They call themselves the Hope Business. When you see what they do, you'll understand why. Through their Food for Families program, City Reach provides fresh, nutritious groceries to over 4,500 people every single month. They partner with 54 schools across Vancouver, Surrey, and the Tri-Cities to make sure kids have access to food, hygiene supplies, and the support they need to thrive. Every August, their back-to-school blast puts backpacks filled with school supplies into the hands of 1,000 children heading back to the classroom. Here's what makes your support go even further. Every single dollar donated to City Reach translates into $10 worth of food for families in need. You can learn more, donate, or sign up to volunteer at cityreach.org. That's CITYREACH.org. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.